Minutes ago, I brought up a blow-up doll. Didn't even have a joke, just said blow-up doll, and you all laughed. A blow-up doll. Who would do such a stupid thing, right? That's weird. 5 minutes later, I say a robot that you can have sex with, dead silence in here. As if collectively you were all just like, well, what does it look like? I'm not gonna lie to you. It still looks like a dead body, but it looks way fucking better than that blow-up doll from 30 years ago. And that's what scares me, because everything gets better, right? You look at when cars first came out, the stupid horn, auga, you had to crank start it, you'd run over your best friend. Now you can start one up with a remote control from like 50 yards away, right? Remember when airbags first came out? They just had one for the driver. My family! Oh my God! Oh my God! Why would you just save me? And then eventually, they got airbags for everybody. Well, these robot sex dolls are gonna be no different. Okay, they're just gonna keep getting better and better and better. And these fucking nerds are not gonna be making any regular looking robot dolls, right? You know, some girl next door, you know, just some plain Jane, the chick your mom likes, being like, well, there's a nice girl you can settle down with, she knows how to cook. Fuck that. They're gonna make Victoria's Secret supermodels, just absolute, like Paris runway looking supermodels. And you're gonna be able to come home to one of these things, and it's gonna laugh at all your jokes. It's gonna sit down and watch the game with you like, it doesn't get any better than this. Yes, it does. And it's gonna get up and make you a fucking, I don't know, bunt cake or a meat pie, whatever the fuck you people eat, right? There's not gonna be a human woman in here that's gonna be able to compete with that for longer than 90 minutes, even on your birthday. By the third trip to the fridge, she's gonna be like, yeah, fucking get it yourself. What am I, your slave? Go fuck yourself. And after you've been with one of these robots, like sex dolls, you're not gonna be able to go back to a real woman, right? With all her hopes and dreams and her needs. You're gonna be coming home, she's like, what is going on with you? We're not connecting, we need a date night. All you'll be thinking is like, how do I shut this fucking thing off? What is it, on nagging mode? Why isn't it blowing me right now? I clearly entered the room. I entered the room, it's supposed to drop to its knees and blow me. I don't understand. Yeah, like your ego is gonna be at like a dictator level. Like, me and my man tits have arrived. Service me. Say that I am your lord. Yeah, that's it. That's it. You're not gonna be able to go back to a real woman. And then nobody's gonna be fucking women, so they're gonna get lonely, so they're gonna have to create a doll for you guys, right? A giant fucking, I don't know what you guys are into. I don't pretend to know, like some giant Brad Pitt looking fucking robot doll, fucking 8-pack abs, a robot dick down to the floor, you know? Holds both your hands when you tell a story, right? Whatever you're into. Opens a bottle of wine at 12 noon. It's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah. I think they're gonna fuck us into extinction. Because at that point, the only people left having sex with other human beings are gonna be hipsters and the homeless, right? Because hipsters, they love all the old shit, right? Cassette tapes, frisbees, dressing like a cobbler, whatever the fuck it is they're doing, right? But even a homeless guy, you know, after like, I don't know, a couple of years, he'll be able to drag some old one-legged fucked out robot model out of the trash, drag it back to its lair, and that thing will still be building him up, you know, just laying there like, I don't think you smell that bad. This is my favorite bridge. Yeah. And we're all gonna fucking die off. And what's gonna be left to fight these robots off is gonna be an entire generation of hate I put on the news, and I'm waiting for someone to address it. Every night, never see it, you know? And every night I bring up gold digging whores, and the whole crowd pulls back like I'm up here talking about Bigfoot, right? Like I'm saying the moon's made out of cheese or something. Talking about whores, people. They're everywhere. many? How many more great men are going to get chopped in half before we do something? Why is it so quiet in here? God damn, I don't get it. What is it? Is it women? Do you think I'm calling you? I'm not calling any woman here a whore, okay? So don't pull back. That's not fair, okay? If you brought up wife beaters, I wouldn't like pull back. I get it. There's guys hitting women, they need to be stopped. We gotta understand that gold-digging whores are the wife beaters for men. Yeah, they are. Except we don't have that Rihanna lumped up photo in the end, so it's not obvious. It's in the eyes. It's in the lines in your face. It's in Mel Gibson's high-pitched voice on the answering machine. I had to give up my Laker tickets, right? That is the sound of a man being taken for everything he's got. I gotta tell you, I'm envious of women, okay? I'm not saying your problems get solved, but at least they're taken seriously. You know? People, you got 1-800 numbers, you got ribbons, there's groups. People give a shit. Anything happens to a guy, it's just considered funny. Some woman cut her husband's dick off, threw it in the garbage disposal, and turned it on. People thought it was hilarious. They were, hey, Stumpy. Nobody cares. Do you think if a guy removed a woman's titty and threw it in the dryer, anybody would be joking about it the next day? The entire country would grind to a halt. There'd be a moment of silence. The NFL would have some special colored headband everybody had to wear for an entire month. The most effeminate color they could possibly come up with. All my heroes are going down. Arnold Schwarzenegger, another great man. Another great man. Taken down by that gold-digging whore of a maid he's got. And I'm not saying he's not a piece of shit for doing what he did. It was a piece of shit move. But how come only he got chastised? What about the maid? Why was she called the maid that entire story? She was never called a whore, ever. Just boggled my mind. She knew his wife, first name basis, played with their kids, fucked her husband in their own goddamn bed. That's right down the checklist. First ballot Hall of Fame whore. Right there. Never. Why do you think she hooked up with him? Because of that 1987 flat top he's still rocking? The giant space between his teeth I could put this mic cord through? Or do you think maybe it's all that kindergarten cop money laying around the goddamn bedroom? No, it's awful. It's a horrific thing to see as a guy, watching guys go through that shit, you know? And then there's no sort of examination of it. They just go, he's an idiot. Hey, he's stupid. That guy's stupid. If that guy's stupid, what the fuck am I, right? Does it even make sense? Why would you do that? Why would you accomplish all that and then fuck it up, hooking up with one of the ugliest human beings I've ever seen in my life? Not saying I'm a prize, I'm just saying, you know? It's got to be something beyond that, right? You know what I think it is? I think it comes down to the way he talks, you know? Body song. Then later on that summer, Stalin drops his new shit. He sells 20 to 25 million copies. 20 to 25 million copies is Michael Jackson Thriller. Okay? One of the greatest artists, one of the greatest albums of all time. 6 to 9 million in sales, that's like Hootie and the Blowfish, cracked rearview mirror. Now, if you guys were at home in your apartment or your fucking barn, whatever it is you do down here, sitting there with your lantern, and you're sound asleep next to your favorite bale of hay. You're sound asleep, and someone came running in at 3 in the morning going, dude, you gotta run down to the bar. It's the next Michael Jackson, I swear to God. You would consider it. Michael Jackson, I gotta fucking see that. You'd actually maybe get it. But if somebody came running and woke you up like, dude, you gotta see this guy. He's the next Hootie and the Blowfish, right? You'd smash him over the head with your fucking lantern or whatever the hell you got in there. Why don't his fucking kills count? Dude, Stalin, he even killed his own friends. Hitler didn't even do that. Dude, you go duck hunting with Stalin, you thought you were in with him. He's taking pictures with you and shit. It's all fucking good, right? Then like a week later, you parted your hair a little bit different, he got paranoid, and that was it. He whacked you. That's it. Not only that, he then had you erased out of the photo. You know, next thing you know, Stalin's like hugging a tree or some shit like that. This guy was photoshopping people out of photos like 60 years before the technology existed. He changed the fucking game. Yeah, so I watch a lot of the YouTube videos, right? So the other night, my wife, lovely wife, she's like falling asleep, and I can't fall asleep because I'm all scatterbrained, so I just start watching some YouTube clips, okay? And I ended up seeing this clip of this lady down at the zoo, all right? This lady down at the zoo, who I'm sure wasn't making as much money as the guy who worked at the zoo, and that's what needs to stop. Hey, ladies, you ever think of opening your own zoo? You know? Is there a reason you wait till we build the whole fucking thing and then you're gonna show up when all the hard work is done? All the animals are captured, then you're gonna say, hey, where's my fucking corner office? Yeah. Start your own fucking zoo. Go on, go catch a cobra. See how that is. It's not the point of the story. I just like being a dick sometimes. So this lady down at the zoo, she taught this gorilla how to do sign language, okay? And I don't just mean like hello and goodbye, like literally phrases. This thing could like talk about its emotions. They were actually conversing. The gorilla's sitting there talking to her, oh my God, you look a little upset today. And she's like, oh, you know, I'm kind of sad. And they're just talking. So immediately, like my brain just went fucking crazy. I was like, oh my God, she's talking to a gorilla. I love gorillas. Who doesn't want to talk to a gorilla? And then without thinking that my wife is sleeping, I just blurted out, ask it how much it can bench. Ask it how much it can bench. My wife like pops up. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, look at this. She's talking to a gorilla. And we both just got sucked into this thing, right? So long story short, she's sitting there, she's talking to this gorilla, and one day she decides to get a little kitten, little kitty cat, right? And immediately I'm thinking like, don't get it a cat. It's a gorilla. It's gonna twist the thing's head off, throw the body over there, play with the head for a while, sniffing it and stuff. And then later it's gonna walk over, set the head down next to the body and wonder why the whole thing's not getting up again. Because it's a fucking gorilla. It's a wild animal. Wild animals don't have pets, right? It's kill or be killed out there. That's it. They don't have little parakeets on their shoulders and shit. It was the exact opposite. She gives it this little kitten, and the thing immediately understood that it was a baby, and this like parental thing came over. It was so like gentle and filled with joy, and just it was like beautiful, right? And then they just understood that I love this kid, and they started using it as like a teaching tool, right? So every night they take the cat back, all right? And then the next day they come in, and if the gorilla learned its phrases, they got to play with the kitten. They use it as a motivational tool, so the gorilla's like vocabulary started going through the roof, all right? So to cut to the chase, one night they take the cat home. Somehow the little kitten gets out and got hit by a car and it died. Yeah, that cat you never met died. I'm sorry for your loss. I know you knew it, all of it, for fucking 20 seconds. You know? I don't know if it was dead instantly, like if it drove right over its head and that was.
I was fixing to shower when my wife ran in naked, breathless, panicking. Then I heard it, someone else in my house. What I found in my closet threw my marriage instantly into the DNA test weeks later that revealed a betrayal far worse than adultery. My name is David Grant. I'm 44 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had a pretty good life. I'm the director of operations at Kellerman Manufacturing, a job that pays well but demands every ounce of energy I have. My wife, Emily, is a regional manager at First National Bank, managing 3 branches across the county. We have 2 sons, Noah, who's 14, and Ryan, who just turned 7. Noah isn't biologically mine or Emily's. He's the son of my best friend Jake and his wife Melissa, who died in a car accident when Noah was barely 2 years old. We've been close to them since college, and when the accident happened, there was never a question about what we'd do. We took Noah in and raised him as our own. For years, everything seemed fine. We had our routines, our weekend barbecues, our family movie nights. Sure, Emily and I had grown distant over the past year or so, but I chalked it up to work stress and the general grind of raising kids. I figured we'd reconnect once things calmed down. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday evening when everything fell apart. I came home early for once, planning to fix that damn shower head in the master bathroom that had been dripping for weeks. Emily had mentioned it at least a dozen times, and I kept putting it off. So, there I was, wrench in hand, kneeling on the tile floor with the water shut off, finally getting around to it. The house was quiet. The boys were at soccer practice. Noah's team and Ryan's team practiced at the same complex, which made pickups easier. Emily had texted me earlier saying she'd get them after a gym session. I was focused on tightening the fixture when I heard the front door slam open. Then footsteps, fast, heavy, panicked. I barely had time to register what was happening before the bathroom door burst open. Emily stood there completely naked, her hair soaked and plastered to her shoulders, water dripping down her skin. Her chest was heaving like she'd just sprinted a mile. Her eyes went wide the second she saw me crouched there with a wrench still in my hand. For a frozen moment, neither of us moved. My first thought was that something terrible had happened. Maybe she'd been attacked. Maybe there was an emergency. But then I saw her face. It wasn't fear. It wasn't panic about some external threat. It was guilt. Unmistakable guilt. "David," she gasped, her voice breaking. I thought you were still at work." I stood slowly, setting the wrench down on the counter. My heart was pounding now, a sick feeling spreading through my chest. "What's going on, Em?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked away. That's when I heard it. A faint sound from down the hallway. A door closing. Someone else was in my house. I moved past Emily before she could say another word. She grabbed my arm, her wet fingers slipping against my skin, but I shook her off. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what was happening, but my body was already in motion. "David, wait." Emily's voice came out high and desperate. I didn't wait. I walked down the hallway toward our bedroom, my footsteps heavy on the hardwood floor. The door was half open, and I could see the bed was perfectly made, the comforter smooth and unwrinkled. Too perfect, like someone had taken the time to fix it. Then I saw it. A phone on the nightstand, not Emily's phone. I picked it up, and the screen lit up with a notification. Matt was the name at the top, with a message that made my stomach turn. Is he gone yet? My jaw tightened. I turned slowly, holding up the phone. Emily had followed me into the room, grabbing a robe from the hook behind the door and pulling it around herself. Her face was ashen. "Who's Matt?" I asked, my voice deadly calm. She swallowed hard, her eyes darting to the phone and then to the closet. That's when I heard it again, a faint rustling sound like fabric shifting. Someone was hiding in my closet. I walked over to the closet door and yanked it open. There, pressed against the back wall between hanging shirts and jackets, was a man. He was shirtless, his jeans unbuttoned, his face flushed with either exertion or fear. Probably both. He looked younger than me, fit, with dark hair that was still damp with sweat. For a second, nobody moved. The three of us just stood there in this horrible frozen tableau. Then the man, Scott, I would later learn his name was Scott Richards, stepped forward with his hands up. "Look, man, I can explain." I grabbed him by the arm and hauled him out of the closet. He stumbled, nearly falling, and I shoved him toward the bedroom door. Emily screamed something, but I wasn't listening. All I could hear was the sound of my own blood pounding in my ears. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get the hell out of my house." Scott scrambled to grab his shirt from the floor, but Emily suddenly rushed between us, her hands pressed against my chest. "David, stop. Just listen for a second." I looked down at her. This woman I've been married to for 15 years, and I didn't recognize her. "Listen to what, Emily?" "Listen to you explain why there's a half-naked man hiding in our closet." Scott was backing toward the door, holding his shirt against his chest like a shield. "She told me you guys were separated," he blurted out. "She said you were getting divorced." I froze. My eyes snapped to Emily. "Is that what you told him?" Her face flushed red. "It's not like that." "Answer the question." My voice came out sharper than I intended, and Emily flinched. "Did you tell him we were separated?" She bit her lip, tears starting to form in her eyes, but she didn't answer. She didn't have to. The guilt was written all over her face. Scott took that moment to bolt. I heard him running down the hallway, the front door slamming a few seconds later. I stood there staring at Emily, Scott's phone still in my hand, my mind trying to process what had just happened. My wife had been cheating on me in our house, in our bed, with some guy who thought we were getting divorced. Emily's voice broke through my thoughts. David, please, just let me explain. Explain what? I cut her off, my voice cold. Explain why you've been lying to me? Explain why you brought another man into our home. She wrapped her robe tighter around herself, tears streaming down her face now. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Emily? I took a step toward her, and she backed up against the dresser. Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty damn clear. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. You've been so distant. You're always working, always stressed. I felt invisible. I let out a harsh laugh. So that's your excuse? I was working too much, so you decided to sleep with someone else? It's not an excuse. Her voice rose, defensive now. I'm just trying to make you understand. Understand what? That you're a liar? I shook my head, rage and disgust washing over me in waves. How long, Emily? How long has this been going on? She looked away, biting her lip. Look at me, I demanded. How long? For months, she whispered. For months. A third of the year. All those late nights at work, all those extra gym sessions, all those times she'd been distant and distracted. It all made sense now. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to steady myself. That's when I noticed something, or rather the absence of something. Where's your wedding ring? Emily's hand instinctively went to her left ring finger, which was bare. Her face paled even more. I lost it. You lost it, I repeated flatly. She nodded quickly, too quickly. Yeah, at the gym. I took it off to shower, and it must have slipped down the drain. I've been meaning to tell you. When did this happen? Last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly. I stared at her, and I could see the life forming in real time. She was scrambling, making it up as she went along. You don't remember when you lost your wedding ring? I was upset about it. I looked everywhere. I turned and walked out of the bedroom. Emily followed me, her voice rising in panic. David, where are you going? I didn't answer. I went to the laundry room, where I'd been meaning to organize the shelves for weeks. There, on the top shelf, behind some cleaning supplies, was a small box I found a few days ago while looking for light bulbs. I'd meant to ask Emily about it, but had forgotten in the chaos of work. I grabbed the box and walked back to the bedroom where Emily stood frozen in the doorway. I opened the box. Inside was her wedding ring. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily's face went from pale to crimson, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. You want to try that story again? I asked quietly, holding up the ring. Emily stared at the ring in my hand, her mouth working, but no sound coming out. Finally, she managed. I didn't know where it was. I must have taken it off and forgotten. Stop. I held up my hand and she fell silent. Just stop lying. You've done enough of that already. Her face twisted with a mixture of shame and defiance.
Fine.
You want the truth? I took it off because I didn't want to wear it anymore. Is that what you wanted to hear? The words hit me like a physical blow. I nodded slowly, something cold and hard settling in my chest. Yeah, that's the truth I needed to hear. I walked past her back into our bedroom and pulled out my duffel bag from the top of the closet. Emily followed, her panic returning. What are you doing? What does it look like? I started throwing clothes into the bag. Shirts, jeans, socks, underwear, everything I need for a few days. You're leaving? Her voice went up an octave. You can't just leave. I turned to face her, and whatever she saw in my expression made her take a step back. Watch me. What about the boys? She demanded, playing her last card. You're just going to walk out on them? I'm not walking out on them, I said, my voice hard. I'm walking out on you. There's a difference. I zipped up the bag and headed for the door. Emily grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. David, please. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I pull my arm free, not roughly but firmly. There's nothing to fix, Emily. You made your choice when you brought him into our home. When you lied to me for 4 months. When you took off your wedding ring. I made a mistake, she cried, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I'll end it with him. You're not sorry you did it, I said quietly, meeting her eyes. You're sorry you got caught. There's a big difference. I walked toward the front door, and she followed, increasingly desperate. Where are you going to go? That's not your concern anymore. What am I supposed to tell the boys when they get home? I stopped at the door, my hand on the knob, and turned back to her one last time. Tell them the truth, Emily. For once in your life, tell the truth. I walked out, and she stood in the doorway crying, but I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I looked back, I might lose my resolve, and I needed to get out of there before I said or did something I'd regret. I got in my car and sat there for a moment, my hands on the steering wheel, trying to process everything that had just happened. My phone buzzed. Emily already calling. I declined the call and pulled out of the driveway. I drove without a real destination in mind, just needing to put distance between myself and that house. Eventually, I pulled into the parking lot of a hotel off the highway. It was one of those extended stay places, nothing fancy, but it would do. As I was checking in, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Emily. It was a text from Noah. Dad, where are you? Mom's crying and won't tell us what happened. My heart sank. I hadn't wanted the boys to find out like this, but I should have known Emily would fall apart the second they got home. I texted back. I'll call you in a few minutes. Everything's going to be okay. But as I hit send, I realized I didn't know if that was true. I sat in the hotel room, phone in hand, trying to figure out what to say to Noah. How do you explain to a 14-year-old that his life is about to be turned upside down? That the family he's known for 12 years is falling apart? Before I could call him, my phone rang again. Noah's name flashed on the screen. I answered. Hey, buddy. Dad, what's going on? His voice was tight with worry. Mom won't stop crying, and Ryan keeps asking what's wrong. She just keeps saying you'll explain. I took a deep breath. I need you to take Ryan to his room and stay with him for a bit, okay? I'll come by in an hour and we'll talk. Is it bad? My throat tightened. Yeah, son. It's bad. There was a pause. And then Noah said something that made my blood run cold. It's about Mom and that guy, isn't it? I sat up straight, my heart hammering. What guy? The guy who's been coming around. Noah's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I saw him a few times. He'd show up when you weren't home. I didn't know if I should say anything. My hand started shaking. How long have you known? A couple months, maybe. I wasn't sure what was happening at first. I thought maybe he was a friend from her work or something. But then, I don't know, Dad. Something felt off. I closed my eyes, guilt washing over me. My son had been carrying this burden, probably torn between loyalty to his mother and wanting to tell me the truth. Noah, listen to me. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault, okay? I should have told you. His voice broke. I should have said something. No, I said firmly. You're a kid. This was never your responsibility. Your mom and I were the adults. This is on us. Are you and Mom getting divorced? The question hung in the air. I hadn't even thought that far ahead yet, but hearing Noah ask it made the reality crash down on me. I don't know yet, buddy. But right now, I need some space from her. That doesn't mean I'm leaving you and Ryan. I'll never leave you guys. I want to stay with you, he said quickly. When you figure things out, I want to live with you. My heart broke and swelled at the same time. We'll talk about all of that. Right now I need you to be strong for your brother, okay? I'll be there soon. After I hung up, I sat there staring at the wall. Noah had known. My 14-year-old son had been watching his mother's affair unfold and had been too scared or confused to say anything. That thought made me angrier than anything else that had happened today. I grabbed my keys and headed back to the house. I owed my sons a face-to-face conversation, and I needed to get some more of my things. When I pulled into the driveway, Emily's car was still there, but the house was quiet. I used my key and walked in. Noah was sitting on the stairs waiting. Ryan was nowhere in sight. He's watching TV in his room, Noah said, standing up. I told him you were coming. I pulled Noah into a hug, and he held on tight. I'm sorry, Dad. You have nothing to be sorry for, I said into his hair. Nothing. When I pulled back, I saw tears in his eyes. Is Mom a bad person? That was the question I've been dreading.
No, son.
She's not a bad person. She made bad choices. There's a difference. It doesn't feel different. I know. But one day, you'll understand that people are complicated, even the people we love. Emily appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes red and swollen. When she saw me with Noah, something flickered across her face. Fear, maybe, or shame. David, can we talk? Not right now. I kept my arm around Noah's shoulders. I came to talk to the boys. They're my sons, too, she said, coming down the stairs. I have a right. You lost that right when you brought another man into this house, I said quietly, aware that Noah was listening to every word. When you lied to them, just as much as you lied to me. Emily's face crumpled. That's not fair. Fair. I let out a bitter laugh. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair that Noah's been watching you sneak around for months, that he's been carrying that weight because he didn't know what to do? Emily's eyes shot to Noah, shock written all over her face. You knew. Noah looked down at his feet, and I squeezed his shoulder. He's not the one on trial here, Emily. You are. I guided Noah toward the living room. Go get your brother. We're going to have a family meeting. While Noah went upstairs, Emily followed me into the living room. David, please. We need to talk about this. What's there to talk about? I turned to face her. You've been cheating on me for 4 months. You told your boyfriend we were getting divorced. You took off your wedding ring. What exactly do you think we need to discuss? How we're going to move forward, she said desperately. How we're going to explain this to the boys, how we're going to... There is no we anymore, Emily. My voice was flat, final. You made sure of that. Noah came back down with Ryan, who looked confused and scared. At 7 years old, he didn't understand what was happening, but he knew something was very wrong. I sat down on the couch and pulled Ryan onto my lap. Noah sat next to me. Emily stood awkwardly by the doorway, like she didn't know if she was welcome in her own living room. Guys, I started, looking at both my sons. You know that your mom and I love you very much, right? Ryan nodded. Noah just stared at his hands. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. I continued carefully. Big mistakes, and those mistakes can hurt the people around them. Are you and Mom getting a divorce? Ryan asked, his voice small. I glanced at Emily, who was crying silently. We're going to take some time apart, I said. I'm going to be staying somewhere else for a while because Mom did something bad. Because Mom did something bad? Ryan asked out of the mouths of babes. Yeah, buddy. Because Mom made some choices that hurt our family. Ryan turned to look at Emily. Why did you do something bad, Mommy? Emily's face twisted with anguish. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. For once, she had no excuses, no explanations that would make sense to a 7-year-old. I saved her from having to answer. Sometimes people make mistakes, Ryan. What matters is what we do after. Right now, I need you and Noah to know that none of this is your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Can we come stay with you? Noah asked suddenly. Emily made a choke sound. No, I want to stay with Dad, he said, looking at her directly for the first time. I don't want to be here. You can't just take them, Emily started. I'm not taking anyone, I said. But if they want to stay with me for a few days, I think that's reasonable. 2 days later, I was sitting in my hotel room with the boys when I finally made the call I've been dreading. My mother, Patricia Grant, had been a family law attorney for over 40 years before she retired. She was tough, sharp as a tack at 70, and she didn't suffer fools. I knew exactly what her reaction would be when I told her what Emily had done. David, her voice was crisp when she answered. Is everything all right? You don't usually call on a Wednesday afternoon. Mom, I need your help. I glanced at the boys who were watching TV, but definitely listening. Emily and I are separating. I need a lawyer. There was a long pause. Then, in a voice colder than I'd ever heard from her, she asked, what did she do? I should have known better than to think I could hide anything from her. She's been having an affair for 4 months. I caught her with the guy in our house. Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice had shifted from mother to attorney. Where are you now? Extended stay hotel. Off Route 40. I have the boys with me. Good.
Keep them there.
Don't let her have unsupervised access until we establish a temporary custody arrangement. I could hear her moving, probably already pulling out a notepad. I'm coming over. We need to talk strategy, and I need to hear everything, every detail. David, don't leave anything out. Mom, I don't want to drag you into this. Drag me into this? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Son, she brought another man into my grandchildren's home. She lied to you and manipulated those boys. She's lucky I'm only coming as your attorney and not as her grandmother, because if I went that route, she'd regret ever crossing this family. An hour later, there was a knock on the hotel room door. I opened it to find my mother standing there with her briefcase, looking like she was ready for war. She hugged me briefly, then pulled back and studied my face. You look terrible, she said bluntly. Thanks, Mom. She walked into the room and immediately went to the boys. Noah, Ryan, how are my grandsons doing? We're okay, Grandma, Noah said, though his voice suggested otherwise. She kissed both their foreheads, then turned to me. Conference room.
Now.
I followed her to the small business center off the lobby. Once we were alone, she pulled out a legal pad and pen. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. I told her everything. Finding Emily naked and panicked, discovering Scott in the closet, the lie about them being separated, the wedding ring, no one knowing for months. My mother took notes, her expression growing harder with each detail. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me. We're going for full custody. Mom. Don't, Mommy. She brought a stranger into a home with your children. She manipulated Noah into keeping secrets. She lied about your marriage status to facilitate her affair. Any judge will see this for what it is. A woman who put her own desires above the safety and well-being of her children. What about Emily's job? Her position at the bank? My mother smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. Her job is about to become very relevant. She's a regional manager at First National, correct? That means she has a morality clause in her contract. Extramarital affairs, especially when they impact the bank's reputation, are grounds for termination. I stared at her. You're going to get her fired? I'm not going to do anything. But if certain facts become public knowledge during divorce proceedings, well, that's just a natural consequence of her choices. My mother left around dinner time, promising to file the initial divorce paperwork first thing in the morning. I felt simultaneously relieved and terrified. This was really happening. My marriage was over. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I found myself scrolling through my phone, looking at old photos of Emily and me. Happier times. Vacations, holidays, moments when I'd actually believed we had something real. Then I remembered something. A few months ago, Emily had insisted I get tested for high blood pressure. She'd been unusually persistent about it, making the appointment for me and everything. At the time, I thought she was just being caring. Now, I wondered. The next morning, I called my doctor's office and requested a full copy of my medical records. When they asked why, I said I was switching doctors. It wasn't entirely a lie. I'd probably need to find someone closer to wherever I ended up living. The records arrived via email that afternoon. I skimmed through them, not really sure what I was looking for. Then I saw it. Buried in the test results from 3 months ago was a notation I'd never seen before. Patient shows signs of long-term infertility. Recommend follow-up with specialist if attempting to conceive. I read it 3 times. My heart pounding harder with each pass. Long-term infertility. The doctor had noted it but never mentioned it to me. Why would he, when Emily and I already had 2 kids? Except we didn't. We had Noah, who was adopted, and we had Ryan, who was 7 years old. Ryan, who had Emily's eyes and smile. Ryan, who I'd held in the hospital the day he was born, never questioning that he was mine. My hand started shaking. I looked over at Ryan, who was playing a video game on the hotel TV, completely oblivious to the bomb that had just gone off in my head. 7 years old. Emily's affair had been going on for 4 months. But what if it wasn't the first time? What if there had been others? What if Ryan wasn't my son? I stood up abruptly, startling both boys. I need to make a call. I'll be right back. I stepped outside the hotel room and immediately called my mother. She answered on the first ring. David, what's wrong? I need a DNA test, I said, my voice shaking. For Ryan. There was a pause. Then carefully she asked why. I told her about the medical records, about the infertility notation, about the timeline that suddenly didn't make sense. When I finished, my mother was silent for a long moment. Get the test, she finally said quietly. Don't tell Emily yet. If Ryan isn't yours, it changes everything about the custody case. Jesus, Mom. He's 7 years old. He's my son, regardless of biology. I know that and you know that. But Emily doesn't get to lie about something this fundamental. If she's been deceiving you about Ryan's paternity for 7 years, that's fraud. That's another level of betrayal entirely. I knew she was right, but the thought made me sick. I ordered a paternity test kit online, express delivery. It would arrive tomorrow. Then I'd have to swab Ryan's cheek and wait for results that might destroy what was left of my world. That night, I watched Ryan sleep in the hotel bed next to Noah. He looked so peaceful, so innocent. Whatever that test said, he was my son. I'd raised him, loved him, been there for every milestone. Biology didn't change that. But Emily's lies did. If she'd been lying about this, too, there would be no mercy. Not anymore. The courthouse was cold that morning. Or maybe it was just me. My mother sat beside me at the plaintiff's table, looking every bit the formidable attorney she'd been for 4 decades. Across the aisle, Emily sat with her lawyer, a man named Richard Thornton, who looked uncomfortable with the case he'd been handed. We were here for the custody hearing. My mother had pushed for an expedited schedule, arguing that the children's welfare was at stake. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Brennan, had agreed. Mr. Grant, Judge Brennan said, looking at me over her reading glasses. I've reviewed the evidence submitted. It's quite extensive. That was putting it mildly. My mother had compiled a file that would make a prosecutor jealous. Photographs of text messages, bank statements showing Emily's withdrawals for hotel rooms, witness statements from neighbors who'd seen Scott's car in her driveway, and the DNA test results proving Ryan wasn't my biological son. But the most damaging evidence was what Noah had provided. Screenshots of messages Emily had sent him, instructing him to keep the affair secret, manipulating a 14-year-old into complicity. Your Honor, my mother stood. My client is seeking primary custody of both children. The evidence clearly shows that Mrs. Grant engaged in a pattern of deception that directly involved the children, creating an unstable and emotionally harmful environment. Emily's lawyer stood as well. Your Honor, Mrs. Grant admits she made a mistake, but she's still a fit parent. She has a stable job, a stable home. About that job, my mother interrupted smoothly. We've been in contact with First National Bank's HR department. Mrs. Grant's employment contract includes a morality clause. Given that her affair has now become public record through these proceedings, the bank is conducting an internal review. Emily's face went white. She whispered something urgent to her lawyer, who looked even more uncomfortable. Judge Brennan held up a hand. I'm not here to adjudicate employment matters. However, Mrs. Grant, I am troubled by the evidence showing you involved your 14-year-old stepson in concealing your affair. That shows a serious lapse in judgment. Your Honor, I never meant... Emily started, but the judge cut her off. I'm also troubled by the paternity fraud. Mr. Grant has been raising Ryan as his own son for 7 years, only to discover through infidelity-related DNA testing that the child isn't biologically his. Yet he still wants custody. That speaks volumes about his character. My mother presented the final piece of evidence, a letter from Noah, written in his own hand, explaining how he'd witnessed his mother's affair and had been too afraid to tell anyone, how he'd felt guilty and confused, torn between protecting his mother and wanting to tell me the truth. Judge Brennan read it silently, her expression growing harder. When she finished, she set it down and looked directly at Emily. Mrs. Grant, your actions didn't just betray your husband. You betrayed your children's trust. You put them in impossible positions and created an environment of secrecy and lies. She paused. I'm granting Mr. Grant primary physical custody of both children. You will have supervised visitation every other weekend until such time as the court deems otherwise. Emily's composure shattered. She began crying, her lawyer putting a hand on her shoulder. But I felt nothing but relief. My boys would be with me. They'd be safe. As we left the courtroom, my mother squeezed my shoulder. You did good, son. Those boys are lucky to have you. I looked back to see Emily still sitting at the table, her lawyer packing up papers while she sobbed. Part of me felt sorry for her, but mostly I just felt free. 8 months later, life had settled into something resembling normal. I bought a house closer to the boys' school. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Noah had his own room and Ryan did too, though he still sometimes crawled into my bed after nightmares. The DNA results had devastated me initially, but they had also freed me from any remaining guilt. Ryan was my son. Test or not, I'd been there for his first steps, his first words, his first day of school.
No piece of paper could change that.
Emily had lost her job at the bank 3 weeks after the custody hearing. The morality clause in her contract had been enforced once the details of her affair became public knowledge. She found work at a smaller regional bank, but it was a significant step down in both position and salary. Scott Richards had disappeared from the picture entirely. Apparently, being exposed as a homewrecker wasn't good for his personal training business. Last I heard, he'd moved to another state. Noah had started seeing a therapist to work through his feelings about his mother's betrayal. He was doing better, slowly learning that her choices weren't his responsibility. He'd also started calling me Dad more often, something that meant everything to me. Ryan still didn't know about the DNA test. My mother and I had decided to wait until he was older, mature enough to understand that biology doesn't define family. For now, he was just happy to have his own room and a backyard where he could play. Emily's supervised visitation had been a disaster at first. The boys, especially Noah, were angry and resentful. But over time, they started to soften. Not forgive, that would take years if it happened at all, but at least they were civil. I ran into Emily at a parent-teacher conference one evening. She looked tired, older somehow. We made awkward small talk about the boys' grades. Then she said something that surprised me. I'm sorry, David, for everything. I know that doesn't change anything, but I need you to know I regret what I did. I looked at her, this woman I'd spent 15 years of my life with, and realized I didn't feel angry anymore. Just sad. Sad for what we'd lost, for what the boys had lost, for what could have been if she'd made different choices. I appreciate that, I said finally. The boys need their mother. I hope you can be the person they need you to be. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and we parted ways. That night, I tucked Ryan into bed and read him his favorite story. Noah poked his head in and asked if we could watch a movie together. We made popcorn and settled on the couch, just the 3 of us. This was my family. This was home.
And it was enough.